Welcome one and welcome all to the greatest show of them all, the NFC East Mixtape Volume 124. You can listen to this show wherever you get your NFC East blog podcast across the SB Nation universe. You can also watch it on the Bleeding Green Nation YouTube channel or the Blog on the Boys YouTube channel. If you do, you will see, I think, the sign language of Brandon Lee Gowton and myself. I am RJ Ochoa. BLG, are you fluent in sign?
No, not official sign language. That's just I'm freelancing, if you will.
I can do one thing. Check it out.
Oh, I clicked away for the yeah. You like doing this a lot. You usually do this as the goodbye thing, or at least you did in the old version of our Friday SB Nation NFL show. The look ahead. It's been upgraded name wise to TGI football.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There was a bit of contentiousness about this. Do you think that you named it that? Because I definitely named it that last year.
I think you're doing a bit because I definitely this is my anyone will back me up. Anyone in my ask Holden, Elizabeth, anyone will ask me.
Ask my best friends in the world and whose side to pick, mine or somebody else's. What a dumb way to put that.
I can give you a lot of names. I send a lot of people messages on days that aren't Friday, TGIF, because I think it's funny to mess with people and make them think it's Friday. So
I've heard you say that here. Bit. I will corroborate that, but I suggested naming the show that. I suggested naming the look ahead, which was on Fridays, TGI football.
No, you didn't. You didn't like that when I first brought it up. You're like, yeah. I brought it up in a meeting we had. Anyway.
Wow. Anyway, well, we had our first episode.
Let's put it up to a poll.
No more polls. Actually, the last time we handed out directions here, people failed. The mixologists have.
Is anyone even listening?
Yeah, like we asked the mixologist to tweet at Nikki to ask her to come on the mixtape. I wasn't tagged in a single tweet, and Nikki didn't tweet at us and was like, "Hey, get your listeners to stop annoying me." So I presume that nobody followed the assignment or did their homework.
Maybe we should put her Twitter handle in the description so that's easier for people to go to, and maybe just people aren't using Twitter. By the way, I have a whole thing on this. I've been meaning to say this. This isn't directed at anyone specifically, but this is a general thing. Oh, I guess it's X now. No, shut up. It's just not. It's just call it Twitter. We're tweeting. We're not. No, none of this X garbage. I know it's literally called that when you see it, but like, let's be real here. It's Twitter. We all want it to be Twitter. No one likes X. It's just Twitter. So we don't need to like fall in line with this. Just it's Twitter. We all need to agree on that. It's just Twitter.
I've done it, so I'm guilty of doing the thing that I'm about to say that I hate. But like, I hate the bit that people do now. The like, oh yeah, somebody said on Twitter, oh, I guess it's X now, and then goes on to like finish their story.
We don't need that.
Like that was funny the first time somebody did it, but like again, I really hate when things become popular and overused, and this is like in that category.
That's what I mean. Everyone's saying it.
I will say, it's not on like maybe I guess I'm just gonna ask. I saw or I have seen like, you know how people do like they'll share like a tweet on a graphic, but they'll put like the tweet and like an image behind it, and then they'll put like the Twitter logo in the corner to like signify that's where it came from. The X has replaced that. I've seen that in different ways. Like so the X logo is in fact the new logo for Twitter. So does that bother you?
It's just Twitter. That's all it is.
When the X stuff came out, originally, there was a lot of jokes about Ed Sheeran, in one of his albums, which is a breadcrumb. I've never been this excited to give my song for the week's NFC East Mixtape playlist, assembly. Very excited about that at the end of the show. Also excited for the show. We have actual football games to talk about. We have preseason takeaways to kind of offer or hand out or whatever the case may be. Nikki's not going to help us do that with the Commanders. Maybe she'll be able to help us do that next week. Next week, by the way, so that you all know, might be a day later, right, Brandon? So we might have to record on Wednesday. So just in case everyone, you look for your normal feed episode next Wednesday, it might not be there. It might not come until next Thursday, but just so everyone is fully aware.
It's always in flux in training camp. There's a lot of different dates. So they practice on Tuesday next week, and I think it's during the morning. Whereas today, when we're recording this on Tuesday, August 15th, the Eagles don't practice the Browns until 1:45. Originally, it was supposed to be 5.
The Browns. Practice with the Browns.
They don't practice the Browns. It's a joint training camp. You play yeah.
You don't practice you don't call it joint practices. You don't say the Eagles practice the Browns. That's a weird way to put it.
Wouldn't you say the Eagles played the Browns if they were playing a game? So it's not okay to just swap out.
I wouldn't say it that way. I would say they're going to practice with the Browns. That's the proper
Well, it's more of like they're
dialect.
practicing against the Browns than with
That's
them.
even better. Yeah, but you can't say they practiced the Browns.
Anyway, the point is the schedule's in flux, so we appreciate you being patient with us. It should be, if it's not out exactly when you think it is, it might be a little bit later.
Okay, let's get to it. The Philadelphia Eagles lost, and they're on a losing streak. They lost the Super Bowl, lost the preseason opener. Could not break the streak. Could not
which
do
loss
it.
was more painful?
Yeah, that's fair. Could not. So the streak is now 24 games for the Baltimore Ravens. I heard a great point on this, just on the Ravens side of things, on the Around the NFL podcast. Now, with there only being 3 preseason games, like it would take all the more long for any team to catch them. So at this point, I'm really just rooting for it to continue forever. This is super funny. But the Eagles 19. It was a game-winning field goal. Like it was fun.
I mean, the Eagles almost upset them in terms of Eli Ricks has that pick 6. They're about to tie it, or they could have tied it if they kicked the extra point, but it's preseason. Like, I mean, if it's a real game, I would support going for 2 anyway, but especially in preseason, what's the point? You don't need to give Jake Elliott another extra point rep. Just see what your backups can do in the 2-point situation. Naturally, Ian Book did not look good in that spot. The Ravens ultimately hold on. I won $2 off of it because I had bet $5 on the Ravens before the game. I knew they were going to win because they care. They're playing freaking Tyler Huntley and Melvin Gordon in the second half of the game. Like, what are you doing? So Eagles lost. I think there were some definite positives, especially with some of the younger players. I really had like 4, or I guess I can go 5 things that stood out to me from this game. I can hit them all quickly. I will say Jalen Carter, obviously he had that clip I'm sure you saw.
The first play, right?
He only played 2 snaps, but the one play. And again, he went up against like a credible guard. This wasn't like some UDFA, nobody, can't body. Like Glenn Cleveland has some starting experience. He was a 3rd-round pick a couple years ago. He played for Georgia, and he just made him look foolish. You obviously saw that kind of top-end talent. I have Sidney Brown was flying around out there. Eagles early 3rd-round pick. He could continue to be in the mix at safety. He was taking some first-team reps on Monday for the first time, really. And I have Tanner McKee looking good, the Eagles' 3rd-string quarterback. I think he could potentially be a number 2 of the future if he continues to progress well. I thought he was making some pretty impressive throws for a 6th-round pick in his first NFL game ever. And then DeAndre Swift. DeAndre Swift had that one run that was like
22-yard run, right?
22-yard run where he cut back, juked a guy out of his shoes, and then laid the wood, put his shoulder into someone, ran through contact as well. That was a little surprising to see. But it's like, he doesn't need to play in preseason anymore. Like we know who DeAndre Swift is. That was nice to get him a little bit of action. But those are the biggest 4 things I had from the preseason game.
On the DeAndre Swift thing, this is just kind of an NFL in general thing. I really thought like on Monday on Good Morning Football, there would have been like a segment devoted to like all the number zeros in the NFL. I was sort of like expecting that because it's new. You know what I mean?
Did you see there's an ESPN feature on this? Did you see
I didn't see that, but yeah. I expected like a montage of like all the number zeros. So
there's an article up today. I actually put that in my link roundup on bleedinggreennation.com if you want to check that out.
I don't want to support Bleeding Green Nation, so I'll just go straight to the horse's mouth, straight to ESPN. But in all seriousness, it was a nice run. The other run was for 2 yards, so kind of come back down to earth. But no, I mean, definitely a very interesting thing. The Jalen Carter thing was just like, oh, of course. Like it was just like it was the meme like continuing and like in a positive way. You know what I mean? Like they're like, oh, of course, he's amazing, blah 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 blah. So that was really funny. You brought up McKee. I think
Tanner McKee.
Well, my biggest like takeaway, I don't have like a strong stance on anything in the preseason to be very clear, but my biggest takeaway here is that Marcus Mariota kind of not great. Like I was never like, oh no, the Eagles signed Marcus Mariota, but like it does kind of feel like this, like he might not, like my assessment is he might not make the team. Am I way off? Like, is that impossible at this point?
You're off just because he has so much experience and there's connections here on the coaching staff too. He's former offensive, so they clearly like
and
him.
He's the prince that was promised for the Philadelphia Eagles specifically.
That too, obviously. And look, it's not like he's totally without any redemption. He looks great as a runner. That's true, but he just the passing certainly is rough. I mean, he's missing wide open targets, and it's not like okay, well, he's working with the second team, so if he was working with the first team, that would solve everything. I mean, I think the offensive line was giving him plenty of time to throw back there. He just didn't look comfortable managing the pocket. So, yeah, that's an absolutely fair concern. It's way too early to say he's not making the team. I think he had a rough start to camp. Part of that was due to the fact that they had a guy snapping the ball to him that didn't really do that well at all, and the ball was constantly on the ground. They actually switched their second team center, and Mariota, coincidentally, or not so coincidentally, had his best 3 days of practice right after that. So, look, it's not great if he has to play an extensive stretch. And I do think that if he does, and he's stinking it up real bad, I mean, and if Tanner McKee continues to look good, that's a path to him being replaced by McKee. But I think Mariota will make the team. It's just a matter of, the confidence level you have in him as your backup. And I think it really depends. I think it has to be a game plan where you're throwing the ball 15 times and just running a lot with him, and then your running backs otherwise.
Definitely a downgrade at QB2 for the Eagles relative to last year. I mean, Gardner Minshew played really well.
I don't know. I mean, he did well in the Cowboys game, obviously, although he had the turnovers. One of them, I think, was less his fault. But Minshew also stunk in camp last year, too. He really did. He was actually, Jimmy Kempsky and I do this little daily training camp award thing where we hand out MVP, LVP points like we used to do on the Oddcast back in the day. And I think Minshew was at the bottom. I think he had the worst camp of any player that we had in that system. So it's not like he looked great, and he was terrible in the Saints game. So I don't know. That's a massive downgrade. I would say as a passer, you could think certainly maybe that's worse, but as a runner, I mean, obviously Mariota's way better than Minshew.
Yeah. Well, cue the the Eagles love running backs as their quarterbacks joke.
Wow.
You know what I mean? You walked right into it. But actually, along those lines, Jalen Hurts, newest Jordan athlete in the NFL. So that's 2 NFC East quarterbacks that are now Jordan athletes. They're the comparisons and similarities between Dak Prescott and Jalen Hurts are funny. It just makes the bickering that happens about them funnier in a larger sense. But congratulations to Actually, I did want to say I read last week I read it 2 hours after we recorded the story in The Athletic about Jalen Hurts and the Philly cheesesteak shop that he frequents. That was so cool and very, very cool of Jalen Hurts to shine a light on those sisters and their shop in Philadelphia.
Jalen Hurts is very intentional. He doesn't do things by accident.
He's
an
amazing dude. I don't know anybody who disagrees with that assertion. So
yeah, I mean, even when I was skeptical of him last year, I've consistently said throughout he is very rootable. It's not like you're rooting against this guy to succeed. You want to see this guy succeed, absolutely. It's just a matter of did he have the talent? And clearly, I think he's proven that. So yeah, he's in a good spot.
So stock up, DeAndre Swift, Jalen Carter, Tanner McKee. Stock kind of down. Marcus Mariota.
Mm-hmm.
Any other hard takeaways?
No one in terms of Greedy Williams. I don't think he's going to make the team. He doesn't look good. And the Eagles UDFA defensive backs have made more plays than he did. Still haven't seen much out of Nakobe Dean. He didn't play in the preseason game. There was some kind of question, why are the Eagles resting him? And I think it had more to do with he is still coming off an injury. He had just returned to practice couple days before, and it was a very light practice. So I just think they want to protect him. I actually think he'll play, and he'll be one of the very few starters who does play in this preseason game against the Browns coming up. Not the whole game, but they had Jordan Davis playing in the Ravens game. So I think and he's probably going to be a starter for this team. I think they'll put Nakobe in there for a little bit, see what he can do. Still haven't seen much out of him. As a whole, I think the Eagles kind of lost their first training camp practice to the Browns. It was kind of a blowout early on. Browns were looking pretty good. The gap closed there a bit towards the end of practice. I think the Eagles kind of made up some ground. Myles Garrett leaving practice certainly helped in that regard. He's really good, man. He was just him and their defensive line as a whole were just kind of wrecking what the Eagles were able to do in offense. And then on the Eagles defense, their side of the ball, kind of had a tough time stopping the Browns' vertical games, play action specifically. The Browns obviously like to run the ball. They have a mobile quarterback. They have Nick Chubb. But that really sets up the play action for them, and the Eagles secondary was having some issues there. So ultimately, I think they improved as the practice went on. But certainly, the Browns came. I guess the theme here, if you want to take anything into the season about this, is that the Browns were juiced up. They were coming into the practice facility of the reigning NFC champs, a team that gets a lot of hype, and they were out to prove a point. They were hey, we want to prove we belong with this team. We are really good. We're going to take a step forward. And that's the thing about these teams that, everyone talks about the team that wins the Super Bowl having a target on your back. And the other team does too if you get a lot of hype. And I think the Eagles are going to have this target on their back, and they're going to get a lot of teams' best efforts. And I think that's what you saw in practice on Monday.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll be obviously interesting to see how the Eagles handle that. But some teams do it great, like the Bengals. You know what I mean? Like obviously losing the Super Bowl last year, like really kind of took that, and like especially this like team that like wasn't really a a figure in NFL like contender discussions, and they've just kind of like they just like sat down at the table. You know what I mean? And now they have a seat. And so, but some
Had a
teams
slow
like,
start though. You remember like last year, obviously
they were 0 they were 0-2. Yeah, but
and Burrow was like not looking
right.
great. Yeah.
But I mean, some teams wither, like the Rams. You know what I mean? Like they like had the least meaningful Super Bowl win ever 2 years ago, and then they just like fell apart, and nobody cares or like thinks about them anymore. So whatever. I like that we have that in common, that we both think really low of them. So that's nice.
I think
anyway,
Aaron Donald might be a Cowboy
at some point.
I think I have this fear that the Rams are gonna, bottom out because their roster is really bad, and at the trade deadline, the Cowboys are gonna trade for him. I don't know if the Cowboys can do that. I don't know how realistic that is, but it's been in my mind.
It'd be difficult to do that and then pay for Micah Parsons. So as well, like follow. But I mean, if you win the Super Bowl, who cares? You know what I mean? Like you figure it out. But
maybe the Rams take on money or something. I don't know, but whatever.
And then Sean McVay retires because reasons, whatever. Okay. Well, moving on to the aforementioned Cowboys. Your last sort of, bold prediction about them fell apart because Zeke Elliott did not return to the Cowboys. He is headed to the New England Patriots. That is official. Actually, Monday was really big Cowboys day.
Yes.
The Zeke thing is really not significant related to the Cowboys, other than that he's not joining them. Zach Martin, though, back. The Cowboys, who lost their preseason opener as well to the Jacksonville Jaguars, and your boy Dougie P. Zach Martin is back, going to be making $18 million each over each of the next 2 years, fully guaranteed. So gets a pay raise. Still not, like top of the line guard money, but the holdout was effective in that, he got his money. It's fully guaranteed. But the Cowboys got a lot better on Monday. And I think there were a lot of Cowboys fans. Nobody is like rooting against Zeke, but I think there were a lot of Cowboys fans relieved now that this is officially out the window. Definitely not going to happen because Zeke Elliott is on a new team, especially because the Cowboys have Deuce Vaughn, who set the world on fire last week.
I mean, that's the big story. The deuce is loose, some people would say. I actually made that up. I do think one good thing, if you're a Cowboys fan, about that is what the Eagles had with Deuce Staley once upon a time, which is, the deuce after like a big run or something. That's always fun. I like
that's
that.
On my radar too. One. Like you don't have to do it with every name ever. Like they did it with Amari Cooper. You know what I mean?
That was
like,
good. I mean, I don't love it personally from my standpoint, but like I think if you're a Cowboys fan, I think it's a cool thing, a fun thing to do, especially when you're in a road stadium.
It is cool, like if you're in a road stadium and like
Amari Cooper, by the way, looks still pretty good. he's really looking good.
I mean, that's a big L. Like nobody is above admitting that, but it's okay. It worked out. We got here, which is what matters the most. So I guess if we assess the game first, my big takeaways were that Will Grier can't challenge for the QB2 job. I started, training camp kind of believing that was possible. That's not happening. The Deuce Vaughn thing really was like, it's amazing how I talked about this on Monday, Football Monday. That is the most like Cowboys thing possible, right? For this dude whose father works for the team and this like massive story about, it's like, he's only a 6th round pick. Why are we talking about him, this much, whatever, that he would be electrifying. The way that he was just, again, the manifestation of only something the Dallas Cowboys could pull off in like a PR sort of sense. But he looks incredible. I mean, I am very, very excited about what he can offer. I don't have a hard takeaway about what Mike McCarthy did as a play caller. It's the preseason, whatever. Defensively, you'd like to see some things be a little bit cleaner. I thought Mozzie Smith got better as the game wore on. Speaking of the future Aaron Donald in the NFL. And really did kind of prevent I'm not saying the Jaguars had no success on the ground, but Mozzie really did his job effectively of clogging up the middle, like kind of eating up the middle and forcing them outside. I mean, he can't do it all, but it was promising in those senses.
Couldn't stop Nathan O'Rourke though.
Oh my God.
Amazing highlight.
That was incredible. Yeah, it's one of those things like you're not even mad about. Like it was just like, that was amazing. I'm just super happy that I got to see that type of thing.
It's almost like the Carson Wentz play from when they were playing the
Commanders.
Panthers. Oh no, I thought Commanders, it was
It was like a Monday night,
2017.
right?
It's a Monday Night Football
Yeah.
game. Wentz was electric in that entire game, but he had that play where it looked like he got sacked. He took off running. He didn't throw the ball, but I mean, it looked similar in terms of just being swallowed up and finding a way to break free. Yeah, pretty incredible play. Deuce Vaughn, I guess I just wonder, what's his role going to be in terms of usage, because I think that's where the size doesn't manifest in this guy can't play at all. The size manifests in how many touches can this guy handle, and like what kind of volume can he take on in this offense. But certainly as a role player, at the very least, looks like he's going to be effective, and that is pretty chalk relative to, like, everyone thought, I think for the most part, that was a great pick for the Cowboys. That was like a steal of a pick. He's going to come in. He's going to be fun. He's going to be exciting. So I'm not saying, it's hard. You can't just say it's definitely a given because of where he's drafted, but this path was certainly there, and it's going, I think, as I expected, as a lot of people expected. That's good news for the Cowboys, especially in light of Tony Pollard's injury, coming back from that and being able to maybe, share some of that playing time and share some of the same things they can do, and not putting all that burden on Pollard. And also, I think you've mentioned, and we're saying on the SB Nation NFL show on Monday, that neither Mike Davis nor, who was the other back?
Malik Davis and Rico
Malik
Dowdle.
Davis.
Right.
And none of those guys are really standing out. So that's good news for the Cowboys.
So there was a great point that
By
I
me.
saw. No, that I saw. I'm looking for it right now. About I guess it was about Deuce Vaughn. It was I think I saw. Here it is. So the conversation around Deuce Vaughn is like, well, what's going to happen? It's like he's your RB2. It's like, no, he's not your, like, if Tony Pollard's out or whatever, you're not going to hand him the ball off 25 times. Like, he's just your offensive weapon. That's really all he is. And everybody's like, well, what's going to happen with, like, pass protection? He's so small. This is what I wanted to get to. I saw this tweet from Bob Sturm, the GOAT, on Monday. Somebody tweeted at him. Shout out to Matt Courtney, was the person who tweeted at Bob. Said, I'm sure people are just used to hearing the Cowboys talk about how important pass protection for running backs is, because that's the excuse the Cowboys use to keep Zeke on the field. They don't realize you can deal with blitzes in a ton of different ways. Yeah, like, somebody's blitzing you. What's Deuce Vaughn going to do? He's going to run out to the flat and catch a pass and run up the field for 40 yards. You know what I mean? Like, they did really kind of, I'm not saying that's like 100% of the time, but that's my
to
point.
some extent.
Right. Yeah, like,
but you need to have him pass protect more than ever.
Again, like, that was like Zeke's calling card, like, at the end. You know what I mean? It's like, well, we have to have him on the field because, like, what's going to happen if the running back can't block? I don't know. The same thing that's happened for 100 years. You know what I mean? So it's really fun. It's like a fun storyline, but what makes it fun is that it's real. It's not just a preseason storyline. So that's interesting. But yeah, Rico Dowdle had a fumble, which was tough. I do think he has the inside track to be like the guy if it weren't Tony Pollard, so to speak. And if Deuce were to kind of maintain his unique little role. But yeah, other than that, like, one of my other takeaways was nobody lost a job on Saturday. There are some dudes that are pretty consensus, like, on the bubble, but all those guys kind of, held. So it'll be interesting to see what happens this week. Cowboys kick off at 9 Central on Saturday. So it's going to be tough.
Why? That's too late.
It's in Seattle.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I know.
But it's a preseason game. Like, come on. Like, we need to put this in prime time. Like, people aren't watching this. Who cares? Just start it earlier. Don't be ridiculous.
More Zach Martin's. Okay, I was going to talk about Zach Martin, but go ahead. Your silly point.
Deuce Vaughn. I mean, did I see correctly something on Blogging the Boys that, like, Jordan Lewis could be a surprise cut?
People are saying that, like, that was a Bleacher Report article that one of our writers wrote about. I would be very stunned. And the reason this is relevant, that in case people are unaware, everybody wants Deuce Vaughn to wear number 2.
I was just going to say that. Yeah, he should be wearing number 2. Come on.
Well, Jordan Lewis is number 2. He's currently on the PUP list. And I don't know, but I would anticipate that he would open the season on the PUP list, which was all the less reason why he would get cut. But even if he weren't, hurt or coming back, he's coming back from injury.
Yeah,
he's a
valuable.
Not
going to cut him because there's no point.
He's a valuable. He's a valuable player, valuable depth piece for them. He's a great nickel corner option. He's been awesome. So I mean, again, people are just that is like caught up in the like, well, you got to give Deuce number 2. I will say, Jordan Lewis has changed numbers more than your average player with the Cowboys. He was number 27 at first as a rookie, and then he switched to 26, which he wore at Michigan. And then he switched to 2, obviously. when that became possible for
you should
for
sell his
DBs.
number. You should do a deal with Deuce.
I like 42. I'm a fan of this. Like I don't want Deuce to change. So
No.
But yeah. Anyway, that's where the super hype has come from. People are trying to cut Jordan Lewis for a number. Think about how silly that is. But anyway, Zach Martin back. Again, the fact that the Cowboys didn't have to pay $20 million a year is great. So their last two they got Malik Hooker done, as we mentioned, but Trayvon Diggs didn't hit $20 million a year. Zach Martin didn't hit $20 million a year. I mean, those are big wins for the Cowboys. I mean, yes, they had to come up, and Zach Martin is less of a bargain than he has been, but he's still a bargain relative to his standing in the entire NFL.
He is. It was always likely with most holdouts, really, that the player's going to cave at some point. It doesn't really work out that they can take it into the season, and that works out great for them. But he wanted to make the Cowboys sweat a little bit. He did. He got some more money, and it worked out for him. Maybe not exactly as he wanted, but more than none at all. So he'll sign up for that.
Well, and he didn't have to add any. The Cowboys did at a void year, but he didn't have to add any year, so he could still hit free agency in 2 years if he really wants to. Like he still has avenues to make even more money if he wants.
Sure. So it worked out for both sides, I would say.
And Zeke, not a member of the Cowboys, now a member of the New England Patriots, a 1-year deal worth up to $6 million. I saw Stats' old boss, Mike Florio, wrote Josh Jacobs should just take the $10.1 million from the Raiders and take it now before the Raiders wise up. What did Dalvin Cook get with the Jets?
1
year,
up to 8 something.
Yeah, I mean, is the market awful for running backs from an earning potential? Yes, but take the franchise tag right now. That's a huge bird in hand you can have as a running back. But I only brought that up because the NFC East does play the AFC East in 2023. So Cowboys, Eagles, Giants, Commanders will all see Zeke Elliott, the Patriot, and Dalvin Cook, the Jet now.
Who do the Eagles play in week 1, RJ?
I don't know because they don't live in my head the way the Cowboys live in front of your head. I would guess it's not the Patriots because I'm very excited for the Eagles-Patriots game for Juju.
It is the Eagles-Patriots game.
Is that week 1? Really?
Yep. So they'll see Zeke in week 1.
And Juju.
Sure.
I'm excited for the content that will come out. I'm not in any way Juju's going to go off on the Eagles. Let's be real. But but the content will be really, really funny at the very least. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
You say the rent-free thing, but there's a Cowboys fan at the Eagles Ravens preseason game wearing a Micah Parsons jersey. I mean, what's that? There were
a lot of people at a lot of
also
different things.
At the Eagles joint training camp practice, again, a Cowboys fan showed up, had to wave the flag around not in a game, not even a game, which is okay, at least you're seeing an entertainment. Maybe someone got you those tickets, whatever. There's a weird circumstance that comes up. It was a practice. It's not even that fun to see if you don't care about that team. You're not booing when they do poorly. That's not really that exciting in a practice setting. So yeah. Just be careful the accusations you make because I think some of it is not always one-sided.
America's team. Anyway, let's take a very quick break to hear a word from our sponsors. While we were gone, Brandon,
that was such a great word from the sponsors.
You told me your favorite flavor of snow cone.
Which word do you think they said? Oh, one word from our sponsors? Wow.
It was meticulous.
That's a good word. Favorite flavor of snow cone?
Yeah. It's a hot day. You're getting a snow cone, a raspa, whatever, shaved ice, whatever you want to call it. What's the flavor of syrup you want poured onto the ice?
I want that. I feel like the classic red, white, blue kind of thing, right?
Why do you do this? Why do you?
That's your classic. Wouldn't you say that's your generic snow cone?
No, generic is strawberry or blue or grape. Those are the.
I just said strawberry and blue in addition to.
No, but whatever. You said it. You said red, white, and blue. It's one flavor. Or are you saying those are 3 options?
Yeah, it's it looks like it's just if you Google it, it's just a layer of.
I don't want that in my.
And then there's a middle. So one side has the red. And then in the middle, they leave that uncovered, I guess, little just
that sounds horrible.
I mean, you could also do, I don't know, a lemon or whatever is white. And then it's not horrible. It's fine. It's good.
Are you a fan of Neapolitan ice cream?
I don't really get it. I would have some if it's around, but I don't seek it out.
Okay, this is my last question. Do you ever?
I like the Neapolitan shake from In-N-Out. That was actually really good. They mix all 3 flavors in a shake. It's great.
That sounds great. Well, that's what I was gonna Neapolitan's good after it's melted a little bit and they're starting to coalesce with one another. But how often do you eat ice cream in a bowl? You get a gallon of ice cream, couple scoops in a bowl. I think that's kind of lame. I needed the ice cream to be a little bit more dressed up.
What do you mean?
Like
How
there's
so?
you gotta put some like graham cracker in there, or you know what I mean, or like a waffle bowl, or like there
No.
has to be like if it's just ice cream, that's boring. Like
Yeah,
so.
that's all I want. I like
I
to get
like
it a little bit melty and like, stir it up a bit because I have sensitive teeth too, so I don't want to be just like biting into the ice cream.
a friend of mine, Bobby Belt from 105 to the Fan. He likes to put his his ice cream in the microwave before he eats it. So he'll put it in and melt it a little bit. Yeah,
I understand the concept, but like you gotta let it naturally melt. You
yeah, I
can't be
agree with
heating
that.
it up. You can't be messing with the temperature.
Yeah,
You're
you can't
messing with
be.
the integrity of the ice cream at that point.
That's fair. The New York still bad at football Giants. Lost losers to the
Wow.
Detroit Lions. In fact, there was only one NFC East team to win in the first week of the preseason. So no spoilers, but you can do the
Mm.
math. Anyway, the
So
Lions.
should we be starting with them? No.
We're still in the same spot. Anyway, the
Yeah.
Lions
Kidding.
beat the Giants 21-16. Tyrod Taylor saw some action. Went 3 of 4 for 7 yards.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't a lot to really take away, I thought, from the Giants. I mean, this was just kind of a ho hum sort of thing, like ho hum sort of game.
I was reading some of the notes over at Big Blue View from our good friend Ed Valentine, and he said he liked what he saw out of John Michael Schmitz, the rookie. Said
Mm-hmm.
elsewhere in the offensive line there was some concern. He thinks some of the tackle depth concerns are overrated because Tyree Phillips didn't play, and he's still on the roster. He'll be back at some point. So, but he didn't like the guard. He didn't like the guard play, so that concerned him. Elsewhere in Giants land, I've seen a lot of Darren Waller hype. I've seen him get a
It's
lot of
taken
hype.
off. It might be past Deuce Vaughn. You know what I mean? Like it's like Darren Waller is. I know you very famously don't play fantasy football, but like Darren Waller is going to go very early in your kind of average fantasy draft because people are hearing this name and seeing this headline a lot.
Yeah, and it's not like I think Darren Waller is cooked. I don't think that's the issue. I just wonder how much left he has in him at his age, and also the durability. I mean, he hasn't been able to last the past couple of seasons. There's been an issue. He has not had a really big year since 2020. Was limited to 11 games in 2021, and then he only played in 9 last season. So it's not like unthinkable. He's having a good camp or whatever. And this is, a setting where he should stand out too.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to some players, I think not that I say he's not physical at all, but a guy who's more athletic and shines in this setting than a guy who might be a little bit more rough and known for being physical. So great, good for the Giants in terms of I think that's promising. You want to see this happen, but I still want to see it in the games before I'm fully buying into I should be scared of Darren Waller.
I generally agree with you. I am of the opinion that maybe he will miss a game or two, like here or there. Will be kind of like a somebody learning to drive stick shift type thing. You know what I mean, like that kind of season. But I think like he'll have games where it's like I don't know, like 6 catches, $120 and a score, or like 4 catches, 68 yards, 2 touchdowns. Like I do think I'm ready to believe that he will be an impact offensively. Like this he's not going to be bad. This isn't going to be Kenny Galladay or anything like that.
Yeah,
Like
I don't right.
I'm
It's
ready
not
to
gonna be
believe that
bad.
like when he is available, the question is simply durability for me at this point. I'm ready to give it, that label.
He's not even necessarily the best tight end in his division, though. It's funny. Like that's like the funny thing about it. Like he's getting a lot of hype. Is he even? And he's good player. But like, is it going too far? Are we talking? Are people hyping him up to be like the best tight end, unstoppable, or are they saying he's a good tight end? I feel like I'm interested to see. And I think too, it's this classic thing of the fantasy analysis getting blended into like the real football analysis where I think the fantasy guys get so excited about him, and some of that excitement. Sorry, there's a bug flying around. Carries over into. That's why I got distracted. Carries over into like the actual evaluation of play. Some players are just better, way better in fantasy than they are in reality, and that always kind of like, someone who doesn't play fantasy football is like dumb to me because it's like I don't care if this guy is like getting all these targets and whatever on a team that sucks. Like that doesn't mean they're good just because they're doing that. But then people think that. People think because this guy is, putting up all this production and honestly helping them win money in some cases that they are great. So I think Waller is a very good player. I think he'll have a good season for the Giants. But again, I'm not like scared of him just yet.
While you were speaking, I pulled up. I don't know if you remember this, like these specific details off the top of your head, but Jeremy Fowler's like positional rankings that he did over the offseason, where the exec, scout, whatever, assembly of opinions,
insiders,
right? Exactly. So as far as tight end rankings, number 1, Travis Kelce, like duh. 2, George Kittle. 3, Mark Andrews, still kind of holding on, I think, to that 3rd spot. But 4 was Dallas Goedert, and 5 was Darren Waller. I didn't remember the gap being like that razor thin between them. The highest ranking for Goddard was 1, which I think is silly because Travis Kelce exists.
Can't be 1. I think he could be as high as 2.
Darren Waller's highest ranking was 3. But his lowest ranking was 9. And last year, for what it's worth, so like these rankings a year ago, Goddard was 6th and Waller was 3rd. So, there has been some, whatever. I will offer a tease for a different podcast on the blog on the boys feed. On the Ochoa this week, speaking of fantasy, I'm going to sit down with Michael Fabiano, the Fantasy Hall of Famer. In fact, I already recorded it, so I did sit down with him. And I explained my specific league of record situation to him because it's a keeper league. I don't need to get into all the details, but I'm keeping Travis Kelce. And so I asked him what I should do in like my first round because I'm the reigning champ, like my back-to-back picks. He advised me to take Jalen Hurts. That was like in terms of my situation, the assembly of my team, whatever. I wasn't expecting that, but it was all due to the tight end. So shout out to it's big tight end episode here on the mixtape.
It always is. Got a lot of tight ends over here.
I continue to see Jalen Hyatt buzz. Those are the things. Like, there's just, speaking of bugs, there's like Darren Waller, Jalen Hyatt. Like, they're just kind of like in your face right now. So yeah, I mean, prove it to us. Like during the regular season, that's where we're at with this team.
Very much so.
I did want to add one more thing. It has nothing to do with the Giants, but they played the Lions. Did you see this Teddy Bridgewater thing? So Teddy Bridgewater, the newest member of the Lions, they signed him. Of course, everybody freaked out about it because everybody loves the Lions. Everybody loves Teddy Bridgewater. And numbers 0 through 19 are currently occupied on the Lions roster. So do you know, as somebody who cares about this like I do you know what number Teddy Bridgewater is currently wearing as a quarterback for the Detroit Lions?
39.
What would be the most acceptable if he couldn't wear anything between 0 and 19?
I mean, I don't understand why he couldn't. Because
they're not available, but you're right, they could double up.
But they are in the preseason because unless they're all on offense, but I doubt that's the case. And you can also, so for the Eagles, Tanner McKee is wearing number 10, but so is their punter, Aaron Siposs. They're both wearing number 10. So your specialist, you can double up on those in the preseason.
That's not how Dan Campbell rolls, dude. So what would be the most acceptable number out, like starting with number 20?
Teddy sucks. He doesn't deserve a good number. So I'm gonna say 41.
He is currently wearing number 50. That is so gross. It bothers me so much.
Is there a picture of this anywhere?
I don't think so quite yet.
Has he practiced yet?
But I wondered if it was a result of like, how sometimes if a guy has been like Amari Cooper was 89 with the Raiders, and then that was taken with the Cowboys. He took 19. You know what I mean? Like, it's the closest thing it keeps one of the digits or whatever. I wonder if it was like he's been number 5. So, it's right. Like, well, I'll just whatever. But anyway, the Washington Commanders, the Eagles struggling with the Browns, not the Commanders. They beat them 17-15. So the Commanders, transitive property, clearly better than the Eagles here in 2023. Ooh. Sam Howell caught some love from people. Besides you as the most underrated, player, your most underrated player on that team. 9 of 12, 77 yards, had a score. The big takeaway was Jahan Dotson looks awesome. Like, I mean, he is a budding superstar in the NFC East.
I think the big takeaway was the post-game
ball. To be clear, like the Dotson stuff is just percolating in general, not for this game, but like that's the last week's worth of action.
You know what I thought about this week? It didn't really hit me until now. Probably should have earlier. Jahan Dotson, right? Jay Dotson. Commanders used to have Jay Doxson. To get the C. Josh Doxson. Remember him?
Yes.
First round receiver.
Yes.
Isn't that weird? They had 2 first round receivers, Jay Dotson, but a letter removed. Anyway, did you see who got the game ball after the Commanders won?
I did.
So stupid. This is so dumb. Why do you need to give the owner the game ball?
Why does
after
this
a
bother
preseason
you?
game?
Have
you seen the state of the Sixers right now? Do you think I'm bothered by the fact that does the owner even care? Does the owner even know what's happening? the team's star player is saying he never wants to play for the GM ever again.
The Commanders don't exist as an opportunity for you to get on your Sixer soapbox.
Do you think that's not the purpose of this team on this show? But do you think the owner is involved? Just think about it from a human level of like having all these different teams, and like how would you pay all of your attention to that? How are you properly dividing your attention between these things?
Okay, so if Jeffrey Lurie has any other business, he's just at fault.
It's not just any other business. It's like 5 other teams.
It's their businesses. That's like, you know what I'm saying? Like that's
Jeffrey Lurie, I don't think has 5 other businesses.
Does he have like a real estate company or like a piece of some sort of tech pie? You know what I mean?
Like
know, this is
but
dumb.
he has like a film thing, but that's like
well, wow, he's paying so much attention to film. Imagine if he weren't. You know what I mean?
That's not the same thing
I bet
at all.
Jeffrey Lurie's behind the Kelsey documentary because he's too focused on film.
You can so much more easily delegate something like that. That doesn't necessarily need your day-to-day attention, especially when the situation is so volatile.
Dotson had a 26-yard touchdown pass from Sam Howell.
A pass or a catch?
Oh, I mean, it was a pass.
Yeah, he caught a pass.
I mean, yeah.
Well, that'd be pretty impressive if he threw it. But yeah, it seems like Howell looked okay. I don't know. The Howell thing's weird. I haven't seen glowing reviews about him in Washington media or Hogs Haven or anything like that, or on Twitter or anything.
I think it's apprehension to believe, like they've just been burned. You know what I mean?
Well,
like,
I also think he hasn't looked like amazing, like fine, but nothing like, oh wow, otherworldly, like lighting it up. He's no Justin Fields throwing for -7 air yards and 3 touchdowns.
That bothered you?
Stupid.
I bet the moment you got the clarity on that, like you saw the play, I bet you were just so boiled about that.
I actually didn't see the hype first. I saw the qualifiers first, which I think people are catching on to my skepticism, rightfully so. I don't need to get into that.
Anyway,
this is very dumb to me.
So Jahan Dotson looks. I think the player we're gonna think like the player who's gonna make the biggest leap in our collective minds in the NFC East this year is gonna be Jahan Dotson. Like I think like the biggest leap relative to where they are right now. I'm not saying other players won't also be better or make leaps themselves, but he has the biggest ground to kind of gain and jump and sort of take over. So I'm very much a believer in that. Jacoby Brissett was fine. I mean, this was just a solid outing. This, which is interesting given that they started the week or had the week with such turmoil with the Eric Bieniemy, disaster comment, whatever. But that's the incredible leadership of Josh Harris.
Yeah, I'm sure he's making a big difference there.
Isn't it amazing that the biggest nightmare happening to a Josh Harris own team right now isn't happening to the Washington team?
There you go.
Wow.
That's funny. That's really hilarious.
Anything else? Any other takeaways here?
I'm looking at the roster. I saw that on hogshaven.com. They mentioned some players who kind of like helped to shore up, lock up their roster spots here. 3 players who locked up roster spots against the Browns. My guy, Chris Rodriguez, who's the pick I like the most from the Commanders draft, which I thought was otherwise kind of just like, not really super exciting. Chris Rodriguez was mixed in there. So I guess that's exciting. He had 5 carries for 39 yards, over 7 yards per carry. And he had the highest PFF score of him, Brian Robinson, and Antonio Gibson for whatever that is worth. So, and the take here on hogshaven.com is that not only is Chris Rodriguez going to make the roster, but by the end of the preseason, he should supplant Brian Robinson as the team's workhorse back. Okay, wow. And it says here it's not a negative commentary on Robinson. It's just that Chris Rodriguez is simply too talented to languish on the bench.
We were big fans of that pick. I mean, welcome to the new era. I mean, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, that's life. Like there are, I mean, how many running backs are going to get like average over 20 carries a game for their team? Maybe not 20, maybe like 23, over 23.
Not
the list is small
at all.
Yeah.
It's just not today's game. Well, first of all, teams aren't even running, as much as they used to. So that's why you're not getting into that carry. You're not getting into those carries in general, unless your team's really good.
That lends to the overall phenomenon is my point. I mean, it's just.
And I think teams are aware you want to rotate these guys because you want to keep them fresh. And you don't want to just burn them out unless you're the Cowboys with Ezekiel Elliott.
I wanted to sneak in one last tweet that was about the Cowboys running back committee, actually, from CJ Jones at Dat Dude Texas. He tagged myself, Tom Downey, and Jeff Kavanaugh. He tweeted, "Bruh, Dallas running backs are TP and Deuce, so you know they the ish. A dynamic duo everyone loves. You can't have one without the other unless you shower." So
okay,
it was funny. Anything else? Any other?
No, let's get to the songs.
Well, Rachel should get to go first always, and plus she's always the first. Although in this instance, I've known my song for a week. But her song is "Rump Shaker" by Rex and Effect. So good job, Rachel. So my song, I actually have known that I was going to pick this for a week. Did you listen to Monday Football Monday?
I did.
Okay, well, good for you, company man. Anyway, a week ago, Hard Knocks premiered. Did you watch Hard Knocks?
I usually don't watch Hard Knocks. It's just not really the right time of year for me to be able to have time to do that. I'm pretty busy with training camp coverage. By the time I have time to watch Hard Knocks each day, like I don't want to watch more football. I kind of just want to relax.
It was disgusting. Like it was this Aaron Rodgers love affair, which bothered me greatly.
Shocker.
So yeah.
Who would have thought?
It was a tough scene in that respect. But there was, and this was during this like Aaron montage of like, like it was actually kind of silly. Like he was like making these passes at training camp, and like all the Jets players were like, "Whoa!" Like what? Like it's just practice. Like let's just.
I mean, that doesn't sound implausible based on Zach going from Zach Wilson.
I suppose that's fair. Like the leap that's happened to that point, that's fair. But anyway, it was upsetting to me, and I was upset with NFL Films because they did such a great job of editing it, and they picked this song like to serve as the like bed of the like montage, and I was like, that song rules. Like, what is this song? And so I Shazammed it. One of the more underrated apps I think that exists in our lives, and the function it provides is really underrated. But it was called "Shivers" by Ed Sheeran. I had never heard this song, and I tweeted about it. And I was immediately met with like, this song is super popular and super old. Like, how have you never heard it? Blah, blah, blah. And have you ever seen the beginning? I don't know if it's a beginning, but like at his concerts, he uses this like, I don't know what it's called, but it's like a machine that he controls with his feet. And he'll like strum a guitar and it will like loop everything he's doing. So he like creates the music live, and no show is ever the same. And the videos I saw were to that song. So very cool. So shout out to Ed Sheeran.
Okay, that's cool. That's your pick.
That's my pick. Shivers by Ed Sheeran.
My pick is, and I've been thinking, so like it's been the past couple of weeks I've had to think about it. It wasn't an obvious contender. I'm really excited for fall to get here because then that's a whole different genre. I feel like, I typically, not necessarily always, but try to fit maybe it's just like a different mood of song. You know how some of the songs we were doing earlier when we started doing the
summer vibes?
Yeah, like I was doing that especially earlier on because summer was starting out. You want that kind of vibe. But we're not quite there in the fall. We're probably like, we're a month away still. It's the 15th. It doesn't start till the 21st. Although I have this whole thing with fall. Have we talked about this before?
No.
Probably.
My wife, in my household, fall starts on September 1st. That's when I have to go get the fall decorations out for her to put up.
I don't like to shortchange fall, but I feel like it's a little too early. It could be still like too hot. And also like school hasn't started yet necessarily, depending in which area you are. And fall doesn't begin to me before school starts. And also no Labor Day yet. Labor Day has to start after. Like fall isn't. It's not Labor Day and you're in the fall. That's just not true. That's
Labor Day is the like official end of summer. So
I agree.
That's so I'm fine with that. Like I'm fine if we push it out to Labor Day. That's fair.
It has to be at least after Labor Day. But like this idea that fall exists in December, like what are we talking about? Like you're telling me, I mean, literally a week before Christmas is what, the 20 or the 18th, right?
Well, that's the way that the calendar works, right?
Winter doesn't begin until the 21st. So you're telling me we're a week out from Christmas and we're still in the fall. That's just not true.
If you're abiding, nobody abides by this. Like nobody's
that's
like,
what I mean.
well,
why do we do this?
Calendar says first day of winter is whatever.
This?
Look, these are the rules. Summer starts on Memorial Day. Like that's the first day of the summer. It ends Labor Day, right? So that's the fall. So what is Labor Day on this year? The 5th, something like that?
I don't know, whatever.
It's something like that. That's the beginning of fall. I would say the fall lasts until Thanksgiving. And then it's the winter. You know what I'm saying? Then it's officially the winter in like my mind. And it's basically the winter until spring break, whenever that happens to be for you. And then it's spring, and then summer starts on Memorial Day.
think people would disagree. I think there's a conversation to be had about when fall ends, because I could see Thanksgiving, that's reasonable, I think, but I think some people, especially maybe some colder climates, would
How about
argue
this?
that it could be Halloween.
How about this?
Halloween's the end of fall, and you kind of feel that way because there's all this build up with pumpkins and the build up to Halloween and everything.
Although
So I get
Thanksgiving's
that.
colors are really fall
They
oriented.
are, but it's all like it's almost like its own thing.
Okay, how about this? Fall ends. It's subjective to where you live. To your point, the moment snow hits the ground for you, that's when fall ends. And if it
What if it
doesn't
never
snow,
snows?
that's if it doesn't snow, then it ends on Thanksgiving. That's what I'm saying.
Hmm.
So like if snow hits your life before Thanksgiving, that's the beginning of winter and the end of fall. It's up to weather. I think
Should
that's
we?
fair.
So the thing that's unique, I think it's fair to say, I'm thinking in my head about fall, is that it has two names, right? We say fall and autumn. Like those are two different names
Nobody
for the
says
same
autumn.
season.
Nobody says autumn that
But
doesn't
some
work at
people do
Kirkland's.
though. But you know
Nobody
what I
says that.
mean. You know it's like a thing, right? Winter doesn't have that. Spring doesn't have that. Summer doesn't have that. There's like this alternate
Summer has
name.
summertime. You know what I mean?
That's
Like
not the same thing. It's like a
it's the
different.
same thing.
No, it's not. It's a different name entirely. Anyway, let us know what you guys think
Nobody
about
calls it autumn.
fall or autumn. I think we should make a distinction between those two. I think one of them should be the bigger range of actual, like what you said to the Thanksgiving thing. And another one should be like September, maybe late September until Halloween. That should
I
be like fall, maybe, and then the other one should be autumn, or vice versa. I don't care which one's which. We just have to decide how we want to define this.
I tell you
And you
what,
should tweet at me, at Brandon Gowton, and at RJ Ochoa, to really hash this out.
I cannot wait for the first time, whenever it is in your qualified seasonal calendar, that I go to walk my dog and it's like 6 o'clock, but it's really dark. That's a great like mood. I'm really looking forward to that. So
Fall is the best time of the year. It's very inarguable. You got football, you got the weather where it depends where you are, of course, but here it's kind of like, okay, it's kind of chilly. I can put on a sweater, a hoodie if I want to, but I don't need to.
Mhm.
I'll be okay if if I just
Also,
go out.
you can do like a top half whatever it is garment, like sweater, hoodie,
Yeah,
whatever, with shorts. It's
hoodie with
still, you know
shorts
what I
on,
mean? Like it's
exactly.
totally
Might be
great.
the ideal combo, depending again how long you're
Mm.
staying outside, what the situation is. My song, anyway, since this is a big tangent, is "Heaven" by Angels and Airwaves. The lead singer of that band is one Tom DeLonge, who was right about aliens, obviously, and is in Blink-182. This is his side project band that he created after Blink-182 broke up the first time. Angels and Airwaves, "Heaven." It's the last track on an album, their second album, called I Empire. I used to work at a sandwich shop. I was wearing my shirt of that, I think,
Right.
last week during last week's record. And every time on my way home at night from there to driving back to my house, I would listen to that song. It's a good night driving song. It's
Mm.
cool. It's
That's a
epic.
good category. Good night
It
driving
oh,
song.
of
Wow, what a
course,
great category.
that's its own
Right.
thing. The song really builds, so I like that.
Mm.
It's the last song. And also I like listening to albums from front to back. I like when albums end strong, like a really good closer track to just kind of put a bow on everything. And I think that's what Heaven is on this album.
It's a great description. Way more introspective than my like. I was watching Hard Knocks and hadn't heard this super popular song story. So, when you said Heaven, there's a song called Heaven by Los Lonely Boys. They were the opening act
I love that
to
song.
they were the
I
opening
forgot about that.
they were the opening act to Dallas Cowboys training camp in 2007.
That was such
So
a great song.
I always
I forgot about that.
the Spanish version is really good too. Like they sing the whole thing in Spanish.
What's it? How far is heaven?
It's called Heaven. But
Yeah,
like
but
that's the
that's
line, yeah.
the chorus. Yeah.
Yeah. But like the guitar is really fun. That's a good like the sun is setting in the final days of summer song. You know what I'm saying?
I
Like
agree. In August summer song.
right. Look at us. Look at us just like making all I said look at us, and something else I did recently was I think I told you this. I had never seen the Paul Rudd Hot Ones.
Oh, come on.
Well, I finally did like 2 or 3 weeks ago at this point, but when I saw it, I was like, "That's the thing." I was like, "That's the line." Like that's the meme. Like that's what everybody says. So,
Could you handle hot ones? I know we talked about I did it before. Could you handle the spice?
I have no real interest in attempting this. I recently watched the
That's
Harry
not the question.
Kane
It's not about would you
episode.
do it. It's could you do it?
No, I don't want
Could
to.
you handle the heat? Let's say you were like you could.
Or what? I would die. Like is that
No,
the,
let's
I
say you could make $1,000
I would
if
do
you
it
just
for I
did
would
it.
do it for like $50. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like so. But I was going to tell you that I saw the Harry Kane episode, and so he went through the bomb, and he was like, "That is horrible." And then the
Oh, it's
next one,
horrible.
well, the next one, he was like, "This sucks." He was like, "But I could see someone like if they liked hot food, enjoying it." He was like,
Yeah.
he was like the bomb isn't even. He's like, "There's nothing about this that is
No.
enjoyable." Like so,
It's not a good flavor.
that's what I'm
That's the
saying. Like
problem.
it was an interesting take that like the next ones that may have arguably been a little bit hotter were still somewhat like enjoyable. I just a good way to put it. Who would who would have thought
It's
Harry Kane
definitely
would do that?
true as someone who's been through it. Great player, by the way. Harry Kane, like an amazing player. Always wish
Bayern's
Chelsea could
finest.
have gotten him. He was great. But yeah, that is definitely true. Having gone through it, and it's funny to me because shout out to my friends Alex and Ivy for buying me the kit for us to try out, and they did it when like they were visiting
The
me.
Hot Ones
So
kit, not the Harry
yeah,
Kane kit.
yes, the Hot Ones kit. So obviously I held on to it because they like flew to see me. They weren't going to be able to take it home, but it's like, what do I do with the sauce now? I have it. I could do it again for the challenge, sure. But whenever else am I going to use this sauce? I'm not. Like, why would I put it on anything? It
Yeah.
sucks.
By the way, it's super funny that you're a fan of Chelsea because you're not from there. Because that's the rule. I thought that you have to be from a place to root for the teams from there. So it's interesting that you like Chelsea more than the Philadelphia Union.
I guess you can't be then. Yeah, a Manchester United fan. You're right.
Yeah, just pointing out your dumb logic. Anyway,
it's not really dumb logic. There's a story behind why I like Chelsea, and it's because they were one of 4 teams available to me on a FIFA demo.
So
that I used
you're
to
allowed
play.
to have a unique story as to why you are a fan of a team that's not from your geographical area, but nobody else.
I mean, I like all the Philadelphia teams and Chelsea. It's not like I like.
You don't like the Sixers. You don't let Josh Harris have his cake and eat it too. So I don't know.
It's not like you. Well, yeah, I don't like that. I don't respect that. It's not like you, or you like the Yankees and the Lakers and the Cowboys and the Warriors and the Miami Heat and all those teams.
Let's get out of here on that note.
And you're a Patriots fan too.
Yeah. As we close, I would like you, Brandon, to tell us all what your favorite flavor of ice cream to eat is after you've let it.
Similar to the snow cone question. I'm going to take this over.
Okay.
RJ, as we close, I want you to tell everyone your favorite thing about me.
You're 6'5".
Nice.